Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's okay. Hope everyone can hear me. And just to answer one of the questions that was in the chat box before we started, I got no life. I will go live next week, just because crypto isn't sleeping, and so it may have happened. I will say, unlikely to go live on Tuesday, given it's Christmas Eve. But I was thinking in my head I'll probably go live on Monday. So yeah, that's what we'll do. Week afterwards, maybe not. We'll see. Again, not going to go live on the Tuesday because that's New Year's Eve. Definitely no one's going to be around for that. Maybe I do something on Tuesday. I kind of in mind, maybe we just do like a quick year review, because I think it being the first year of this bull year cycle. No, sorry, that's wrong. It being such a strong year that we've had with ETFs and everything else, maybe there's just a good opportunity to go back and just see how far we come, because sometimes we don't see all that. But anyway, we'll worry about that one in the future. In the meantime, I don't know what I'm saying there. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's okay. I put a little bit of a poll up at the moment, just questioning if you had a chance out, what would you rather be in, Bitcoin or altcoins? And the reason I asked that is I've seen a lot of chatter really about, some worries about altcoins and whether or not Bitcoin is actually going to dominate this cycle. And we're not really going to see a typical 4-year cycle. It's more going to be very Bitcoin heavy, and altcoins, whilst they may do well, are not going to do as well as they have done in the past compared to Bitcoin. I'm trying to just gauge sentiment really with perhaps more sensible people like yourselves, rather than just what I'm seeing on Twitter, because obviously anyone with a brain cell can put their views on there. But it'd be interesting to see what people's views on that are. We'll close the polls later when I go on and have a little bit of chat about my point of view from it. That all being said, I think it's been a particularly good week, certainly in the news front for Bitcoin and Bitcoin related companies. And I think, again, looking at the price charts we see here for Bitcoin, another relatively good week. 3-day time frame chart at the moment on the screen. And, we're still climbing today. We made another all-time high, 108,000. Kind of loses its charm a little bit now, doesn't it? It seems like every day we briefly tip over by a couple of $100 before coming back down. But it is another all-time high, and we are still continuing to climb. Part of me looks at that pattern there, and I just wonder whether or not, particularly when you look at it on the daily, and I will go into some more detail a little bit later on. But I don't know. I would prefer a bit more consolidation at lower levels, but we're just sort of slowly crawling upwards. And yes, you could argue that this is a consolidation period, certainly when you throw on things like the volume. It's relatively healthy where we're going, and it's making it. But with so much bullish news that we're going to sort of talk about, with significant inflows into the market still, price for some reason is not correlating as sharply as I would have expected. But we're going to have a look at sort of past cycles and see whether or not this is relatively similar for this stage within the cycle, and also for the price. The other 3 charts we got there, we got near. We had a sharp run up, consolidated, had sort of dropped back down, it's consolidated at the moment, absolutely fine. We've got total market cap excluding BTC and Ethereum, and again, good move up. It did drop, to back down to about 900 billion, but it's recovered that quite well, sitting above $1 trillion. I think generally that's okay. And so, I'm already building questions as to, are people really that worried about altcoins at the moment? I don't necessarily think that we need to be, and I'll explain my thoughts on that later. The one that I think is on a lot of our minds at the moment is BitTensor. And just looking at this chart here, and again, we were going, my initial reactions are not particularly great right now. We've got this long sort of base support line sort of down here, and that felt a long way off a couple of weeks ago when we were up at $700, and now we're down at 530. We're under a lot of levels that could cause us some concerns, and that level now at 425 is not actually looking that far away. And whilst I'll go into it in more detail a little bit later on, just on the 3-day chart, oh, that's not very good. Sorry, I thought it had a little magnet to snap. It doesn't. There we go. Okay, this candle hasn't closed yet, but we're battling and maybe breaching this support level. And I'm thinking there's a potential then that we actually could see some further falling. And so that sort of needs to be considered. And I will say that BitTensor is not alone in this. And so maybe there is an argument to suggest that at least this alt season we felt for 2 weeks, a couple of weeks ago, is maybe just sort of cooling off a little bit. Maybe we're getting a little bit more focused towards Bitcoin. But is that just par for the course? Or is it now a shift in the dynamic of where we're going? And a lot of this, I have to say, is probably, nope, wrong thing, stemming from the news. I mean, everywhere you look, positive news is about, and don't worry, there's loads of news articles everywhere. I'm not running through them all, fear not. MicroStrategy, okay? It's been announced that it has been confirmed for the NASDAQ 100. Now, for those of you who are wondering why MicroStrategy hasn't pumped since it was announced on Friday, it actually hasn't been listed yet. It won't list until next Monday, so the 23rd. I must admit, I thought it was listing yesterday, but it isn't. And so, yeah, you know, pretty much the most famous Bitcoin company out there finally listed on the NASDAQ. So very positive news. We know Saylor's stance on all of this. We know their strategy on all of this. And for those of you that are wondering whether or not they're doubling down on it, they've just gone and bought their first ever set of Bitcoin above 100 grand, and they did it yesterday. 1.5 billion, they got 15,000 BTC, and they now hold somewhere in the region of 439,000 BTC, which is just wild. And I read a stat somewhere that they hold like 10 times more, 15 times more maybe even, than their closest publicly listed company. So, you know, they are not stopping this. And there's that kind of attitude, and rightly so in the bull market, that as long as MicroStrategy is still doing it, as long as Michael Saylor is still going for it, Bitcoin has got, you know, a future. He's always going to be buying it. Doesn't matter where it goes. If he's buying it, other companies are going to follow. And I don't know why that article's there, but there's some here somewhere. I've got to try and find it. Maybe I didn't save it. Yeah, here we go. And it's not just MicroStrategy. Ooh, close that. I don't know what's happening here. Except all go away. You know, we have other large companies in the last week that have sort of indicated they're at least entertaining purchasing Bitcoin as part of their investment strategy. Now, Microsoft, spoiler alert, their voters have actually said no. They're not interested in doing it this time. We'll see whether or not that comes back to bite them. Amazon have certainly suggested that they'd be interested in it. We've got, you see, that's the problem when you do it in advance. It doesn't load up as quickly. We've got other companies that are sort of trying to do this. So we know Marathon, we know Metaplanet, we've got pharmaceutical companies like Acrux. There's loads of other ones that are out there. There's always this discussion about whether Tesla are going to dip their toe back into that. But we're starting to see much bigger players realize that this is somewhere that they need to go. You throw on top of that what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks with the United States Bitcoin Reserve proposal that they're looking to go for. And again, you kind of paint that picture that everything seems rosy for Bitcoin. Now, previously, everything that's rosy for Bitcoin is generally rosy for the cryptocurrency market. But that's where maybe this disconnect is coming along. Now, Trump's apparently being quoted, and we'll put that as pretty high on the could do with a reliable source of that, to suggest that he is going to approve this US Bitcoin reserve from day one as an executive order. We'll see whether or not that comes to pass. He comes in on the 20th of January. Let's give him to the end of the 21st, see where it goes. But I do feel, and we'll talk about events that are going to happen tomorrow, between now and the 20th of January, there isn't really anything, you know, except for a black swan that we can't predict for, that really can come along and trip us up. You know, the outgoing president, I mean, where is he at the moment? No one really knows. So there's nothing that we think from a legislative point of view could potentially trip up Bitcoin. We've seen other countries sort of lining up to actually want, or at least put forward the idea of purchasing Bitcoin strategic reserves. I didn't bother with the news article, but I even saw that a member of the European Parliament, they're putting forward that the EU should be considering this as well. So this huge amount of demand, well, it hasn't materialized yet. And I think we need to just sort of caveat, but there's a lot of talk about a significant amount of demand that's going to come in. And unfortunately, it's only for one asset at the moment. And I think that's where suddenly there's these fears about Altseason maybe not being as face melting as it has been in the past. What am I doing here? Oh, it's just another article with Trump sort of, embracing it. $15 trillion price boom. It's a bit of a clickbait title there, but we certainly know that if the Bitcoin Reserve Act does come into fruition, never mind the gold rush that it will be with the rest of the nations, but we know that the United States are going to be looking to purchase around about 200,000 Bitcoin every single year for the next 5 years. I should caveat that. Right, let's just get rid of this. Too many adverts pop up. I've lost my train of thought of where I was. We talked about Microsoft, that's fine. And then let's just have a look, the ETFs as well. So BlackRock, so canary in the coal mine, I say it every week. Look at this, last 3 weeks, it's just buying ridiculously. And except for one day, and I don't know what happened on the 11th of December, maybe they just had Christmas party on the 10th, and so no one was in the office. They have been buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of BTC every single day. They're not stopping. And if they're not stopping, they know more than we do. Then why should we be too worried about it at the moment? And we also got to bear in mind that, these are institutional investors, that they could pull their funds if they wanted to. They could decide we've had enough, but they're quite excited with what they're able to get in. And this thing's been going for 11 and a half months. Let's just call it 11 months. And BlackRock alone, 36 billion they've spent on Bitcoin in less than a year. It's wild. And we talked about gold earlier on in the year, and when they launched their ETF, and it took them like 2 years to get to 10 billion. BlackRock have nearly 4 times that in less than a year. That's one individual ETF. So this thing is hot. Sadly, the Ethereum ETF is not so hot, but this thing is certainly going. Now, don't know whether or not you want to take this as a something to be concerned about, or something to sort of go, you know what, we're in a pretty good position at the moment, but we're still in that extreme greed kind of area. We've been oscillating around it. We did drop down to 75 last week. I know it says 78 there, but it just takes it back from 7 days. So it is still pretty high. And these are the times that we've at least got to be a little bit concerned that maybe there's a pullback. But at the same time, greed is good, and there's still opportunities to be made there. I'll come back onto where altcoins sit when I actually get to talk about the altcoins. And then we've also got this, which people are now suddenly starting to talk about, the Santa rally. So, the Santa rally is a thing. Let's not try and suggest it is. It is something that's come about way before cryptocurrency was around. And it's effectively saying that the week of Christmas and then like last week of the year, potentially the first 2 weeks in January, particularly sort of positive returns with traditional and I suppose cryptocurrency markets. Whether or not you want to put that down to the fact that everybody's on holiday, so it's just retail trading this thing, and we're not seeing the sort of the volatility created by market makers, we'll wait and see. But certainly for Bitcoin, previous years, I mean, I didn't bring it up, but let's just open this website up. Bitcoin monthly returns, December. I mean, this one's already up 10. But in bull market times, 12%, 47%, 40%, 30%, 14%. And then even when you look into the January side of it as well. So some relatively good returns are seen in that period. And we've talked about Q4, maybe even Q1, and how well they've done, even as close as last week. So I'm not going to rehash over that. But we've got to kind of bear that in mind. The only thing I would say is whether or not that's going to rub off on altcoins. And a lot of us are altcoin heavy at the moment. Let's just close that one down. I did miss something that someone asked the question of, which was Jeff. So since I talked about MicroStrategy, I will just cover this and then we'll move into something else. And Jeff's put, hope you're well. Sorry it's late, but it's time to answer. Interested if you bought any MicroStrategy yet and what price targets you have in mind, 280 to 320 or too optimistic? I have someone like to add some more, but I suppose it depends on what BTC is doing. I mean, funnily enough, the funds actually landed in my SIPs to actually start looking at that today. So I did have a look at MicroStrategy's price, and MicroStrategy is in a bit of an interesting position. Maybe there's an element of buy the rumor, sell the news, but the reality of it actually is that we got the announcement Friday after hours. We had a fairly deep, we had a move up on the opening yesterday and Monday, but actually since then, prices have retraced to prior to the announcement. So maybe there's either just this element of cooling off period before they actually go live on the 23rd, or it is an ultimately a buy the rumor, sell the news, the events actually happened. But what I would say, just from a price action point of view, this strong move up, but then just look at this candle. One, we gapped up, then we gapped up again, and then on that day, which is what 21st. What time? 21st of November. That sudden move back down, and we haven't really been able to recover that. So part of me is sort of saying, well, I'm not suggesting this is by any means a blow off top or anything here, but maybe we are just seeing a period in which profit taking was happening as Bitcoin was flying up. Obviously, we had, you think about where we were beginning of November, Bitcoin at 70,000, just under 67,000, like huge move up with the Trump rally, and then because this is traditional investment, people have likely taken profits, or at least recycled those profits into other assets. So look, fair enough. In terms of targets, I haven't bought yet, so it was at 408 earlier on today. I'm just watching it, and to be honest with you, the 10 and the 20 EMA certainly have got my interest, not to mention the 50 EMA, which we haven't really touched since the beginning of September. And then we've got this vector zone recovery, and these things all work. So I'm because it's going to be part of a pension pot, I'm not going to wait till it gets down to the bottom, but I just kind of want to see, I don't want to jump straight in day one. I'm just going to kind of have a bit more of a feel about where this potentially can go. But certain areas that I'm targeting, definitely 375, which is kind of in and around this level. I suppose the dream level will be 325. And then, if I have anything spare, perhaps I have an opportunity to get in lower. But I will treat this, because it's my pension pot, how I do with my Bitcoin. I'm not going to try to be too smart with it. I'm just going to buy. It's a long-term hold, and I mean a long-term hold. It'll be what it'll be. I'm not going solely into MicroStrategy. It is going to be a very crypto-focused pension pot, probably the likes of MicroStrategy, Nvidia, maybe even Coinbase, and some mining firms, something along those lines. But hey, if you're in crypto, then you're either all in or you're not. Let's just go for it. So that's kind of it. There's no financial advice in that. That's just what I'm looking at for whenever I do get to buy it. I'm quite enjoying the fact that it's all in my shoulders. We'll see where it goes. Jamie's put, being such a volatile stock, the kind I've lost a bunch of money in before, I'm thinking of waiting for confirmation and buying on the breakout instead. You see, again, not a bad shout, really, because if it is something you wanted to hold for a long time, then there's absolutely there. I suppose if you're just waiting for the breakout at 545, I mean, trust me, this candle happened rapid. But yeah, it's a long way to go. But there's a vector zone there that needs recovering. Same as this one down here. And we're kind of in the 50-50 zone. I'm just going to ladder in slowly but surely. And yeah, hopefully I can get some nice orders, but then we continue tracing on upwards with that. Right, is there anything else I wanted to talk about from that? I don't think so. There was one other question there which I'll cover later on. So let's get into Bitcoin. It's the good old chart again. Yep, I updated it today. I forgot to put one of those circles on, but there's one there. We're on the 12-hour time frame, and the two liquidity areas we're really looking at the moment is 108 to 109, and then 99 to 96.5. Now, what I do find interesting is it wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking the election. I remember we were down here, and this line was still drawn, and I was just thinking, we're not going to have to worry about this for ages. But the speed at which we've come up at this, I'm one, impressed, obviously, two, staggered, but also as excited as I always want to get about it, there is some nervousness. I do feel we need a retest. Now, we have, last couple of weeks been fighting this line in and above. We finally cleared it. Okay, we finally made some daylight from it and actually managed to sustain being ahead of it. So maybe I'm actually just giving ourselves a bad time. What I would prefer to see, if I can get a clean chart. Oh, let's throw this on the daily. What you'd want to see, isn't it, is you want to see, that breakout that we've had, and a period of consolidation, where it's actually coming down, testing the lows, building some sort of structure, some sort of level of support before it makes its next move up, like what we saw over the summer. We just want, ideally want to see that again. Obviously, that's not what we're getting at the moment. Unfortunately, it's far from it. Oh, what am I doing with that? we're getting these moves up, but they are, higher highs and higher lows, which is great. But at the same time, you can even see for the wiggles I've drawn there, I am just worried that we're leading to some sort of compression, not very well drawn, I admit, freehand with a mouse, that ultimately could bring us back down. Now, if it's gonna, I'd rather it just did it now, brought us back down to the base, and we go again and we just build off it, and then we see that sort of moving. Oops, take that away as well. But going back to this other chart, what I'm also seeing is, this extension, this Fibonacci extension, which you can kind of just see on the right hand side, this dates all the way back to maybe even before August. And it's hard because we've passed the level it was originally at, which was 1, so we're using the extensions above it, and I don't have as many, but I'm really just looking at sort of whole numbers and the 618s as kind of areas of major interest. That being said, the 414 did have some sort of area around it, so it kind of says that I think we still can use these as some sort of level to go through. The 618 certainly, or the 1.618, plenty of interaction off that. But the 2, which is at 109, let's just call it 110 for a nice round number. We're so close to that. It also is just above the area of liquidity that is building up at the moment with all of these. I suppose people could try to short it, but not getting caught out. So I'm thinking, do we have a psychological level at 110, which also ties in with Fibonacci level, which also ties in with them just taking out that? I think there's a possibility there. If that's going to be the case, though, our good old savior right now is going to be wherever it is along this line, 102 to 106, depending on how long it takes. It has been broken a few times, so maybe it gets below that. But my next real target, and we're going to have a look on the market makers chart in a moment, it's got to really be this level of liquidity, and at a maybe even down as low as 94,000. Just taking the 618, and I wouldn't be so upset. I mean, alts would struggle if that was the case, unless we saw a ripping Altseason, which I'm going to show you why potentially we aren't in a moment. Alts are going to go down from that. But then again, I look at it and I think, I talked about this last week. If we're down here, maybe we actually want to see it down to the base. Maybe we do want to see it. Say we want to. I appreciate no one's going to want to see it down to 87. But maybe we do sort of see that, even if it's just a flash crash down, flush out some of these Moon Boys longs, get that there, a nice reset, and then a strong bounce off, 87 to 90, where this sort of shoulder kind of originally formed. And we can start to go again and get ourselves up. Because the more we head up like this, just the more concerned I potentially am that we're just going to fall and it's going to be a bit more of a blow off top. And we're going to have, like what we did in 2021, sort of that spring blow off, reset by 50 odd %, build up over the summer, and then fly through into November. With that being said, though, that's kind of what I'm seeing, but that's just what I see. What's the market done in the past? And we'll throw it back on the weekly, because actually it's quite similar to what happened in the last bull run. And I think that's something we've got to remember. Bitcoin, when it decides to move, it's going to move. And alts will struggle to start off with, but hopefully they still have their day in the sun. They certainly did in previous cycles. But, we've had that period of consolidation. We've started to climb out of it. What did that look like in the previous one? So we had this period of consolidation. Yes, okay, we had the COVID crash down here. All right, fine. But it was recovered fairly quickly. So I'm just going to say that is a consolidation period. And then we had this move up. And, you kind of look at that sort of period of, I don't know, I'll have to zoom in. My mouse is super sensitive tonight. This sort of move here, some sort of end of October, just absolutely flies up. And it doesn't have a chill, it doesn't take a break. It just keeps on going, regardless of my thought process or sentiment. And so I look at this and I think, well, we've had that period of consolidation. We got to November, December. Again, there was an election in that time period as well. And we're just moving up. And so why can't it actually? Why do I have to insist on there may being a pullback? We didn't pull back in 2020, where we went from 9,000 to 49,000, almost a 5x in what? I don't know, 3 months, 4 months. Why can't we actually do that? And so, I'm not saying cash out of anything right now. Give Bitcoin its chance to breathe, because we know when it wants to run, it's going to run. And with all that bullish news I went through before, there's plenty of reason to do it. So I'm just really going to be dictated by what the charts do and what the news is, and not trying to be smart, not try to be clever, certainly when battling against BTC. Can it get 400% from where it broke out? Ooh, what's that gonna, hey, 400% would be, it's close enough, 335,000. Not ruling it out. I'm not saying it's getting there either, but that's where that level would be. And I remember it, for those of you that were in the 2021 cycle, that was wild. That was wild. The speed we went from 9,000 to 20,000, and then from 20,000 to doubling and breaking through 40,000. It took like 20 days. It was just an epic move, and it felt amazing. So going from 70,000, to 100,000, that's nothing compared to 9,000 to 20,000. Should be really talking about when we get from 70 to 140,000, from 140,000 to 200,000, the same percentage uplift. So it can absolutely happen. And for me, with the likes of the bullish news, with the just sort of no major headwind in our way, we've got one event tomorrow, which I suppose could take us there. Then yeah, with the FOMC, which we'll talk about in a moment, I don't really see it. And I would suggest, as we get closer and closer to inauguration and just the hype, and I think it will be a fevered pitch hype, certainly on crypto Twitter, crypto YouTube, about this whole day one Bitcoin reserve executive order. I think if that doesn't materialize, I don't believe Trump's actually gone on record and said that he's going to do it from day one. But what retail are like. They're going to jump on the back of this. They're going to remortgage their house, 100x leverage on the 19th of January, because he's going to do it on the 20th. And when they don't, they're just going to think it's the start of the bear market, when it absolutely, of course, is not. It'll be a massive overreaction. But we might see the markets move there. But for the next 4 weeks or 5 weeks until that happens, what is there really in the way? Nothing. It'd be interesting. I didn't mention it, but Donald Trump actually met with the CEO of Crypto.com today. Which again, an interesting choice of people to meet for the president-elect, but it certainly shows some serious intent of at least where he's wanting to go. But we really need to see the action. It's all well and good him talking about it, but we want to see where that actually goes. If he does that kind of thing, we've talked about what that could do in terms of the gold rush or the Bitcoin rush for the rest of the world. Then we get into Altseasons. And 2 weeks ago, we talked about Altseasons, and we were about, where were we? 1st of December, it was one after that. It's the 3rd of December. I can't get it. There we go. 84 on this chart. And I said the Altseasons, that's worrying that we're already at 84, because they burn bright, but they burn fast. And we have seen a big drop over the last couple of weeks after that sharp move up. And whilst we're still technically in the altcoin season on this metric, we're still at 65. The pattern does seem to be down, and we need to see some sort of reversal of where that can go. When we take a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, and I don't know if there's a real, you got to bet, when I say a bullish scenario, I mean bullish scenario for this chart, Bitcoin dominance, not bullish scenario for crypto, because we obviously want Bitcoin dominance chart to look bearish so that altcoins will pump. But this I don't think this looks a particularly painfully disgusting or ugly chart, or suggesting anywhere that we may be seeing a sort of a capitulation in Bitcoin dominance. What have we seen? Well, since April 2023, the Bitcoin dominance has just stuck to the 20. These are the 20 and the 50 EMAs, not the usual ones that I put on, but we're on the weekly time frame here. It's just stuck to the 20 EMA like glue. It's just sort of chugged along. We finally had a break of it, but what happened? We just went down to the 50. Since then, we've seen a strong bounce, and I appreciate that this is the weekly time frame, so we've got 5 days left, but we're actually also recovered above the 20 EMA as we currently stand. So, bit of a healthy pullback, and in that 3 weeks worth of falling from 62% down to 54%, we saw nearly $700 billion worth of USD or value go from will go into the total too. So rest of the altcoin market, including Ethereum. So, even a 3-week drop where an 8% drop, so a massive amount of money go into the market. And actually quite a lot of that still stayed. So yes, we've had that pullback in Bitcoin dominance where a mini alt season has flown. And for those of you who are in legacy tokens, you've really seen the benefit of that. We've seen some meme coins also benefit from it as well. But, a lot of the, rest of the top 50 cryptocurrencies, modest gains of 50 to 75% over the last 30 days. I know, shocking. But that's kind of where it is. So I don't necessarily think this is the worst chart that you can look at. And if that's going to be the case and Bitcoin dominance is actually going to take over again, then what are we going to see? We're going to see Bitcoin continue to climb, which kind of fits with the beginning of the narrative of what we talked about, all the news stories, everything that's going, I can't spit my words out. The legitimizing of Bitcoin sort of across the world, whether that be from a national point of view, governmental point of view, or just from a corporate point of view, it's certainly getting a lot more attention than it got, say, 4 years ago at the beginning of that cycle. For those of you that are kind of hoping for an alt season, then, can we draw this? Let's see. There's definitely something. There's this. So what you can say, and this goes back to beginning of 2022. Dominance chart. I appreciate it broke below. We lost it. We're using the 20 and the 50 EMA. We rejected off. We've come back up. But I think this is a fairly decent trend line for what's happened at the moment. And what I would say, ignore the current candle because it's got 5 days to go on it. 2 weeks ago, it lost this support, fell back down. Oops. Last week, shot back up, and we're just on it. We're back on that trend line. So we're kind of at that tipping point of we either continue this alt season, and to do that, we need Bitcoin dominance to fail to clear this level here. And in doing so, this will continue to fall. We need to then lose the 50 EMA, and we can really start to see some of the altcoins move. But if it holds this, the reality is we're back with that tough nut to crack that is the 20 EMA in a bull market. And until we do that, Bitcoin dominance is probably going to continue to at least retest the highs that we saw there. I'm just thinking whilst we got it, let's just throw a fib on. We're on the weekly, so we'll go wick to wick. And again, wick to wick, what did we see finally when we lost this? It just recovered down to the 236. Bounced off that incredibly strongly. We've regained the 50, we've regained the 20. Okay, still got a bit of time to go. So, a lot of things are just tying in that actually this was probably just a healthy pullback. And that's why I still stand by alt seasons. They do burn bright, but unfortunately, they don't burn long. What have I got here? So, okay, yeah, I've just put these in the wrong order. I probably like a lot of you, I trawl through crypto Twitter, I sign up to newsletters, and there's just certain people that I just like the way that they display information. And one of them really catches my eyes. I've mentioned this guy before, or girl, don't know, CryptoCon. And if you're into sort of simplified information or sort of complex theories that are simplified and placed onto a chart, then he's definitely someone she is worth someone to follow. I don't buy into everything that they put in. So, it's just how you then use that information to, suit your narrative, I suppose. But with people talking about Bitcoin dominance, he sent this out. Now, I couldn't replicate some of it. So I've taken it directly from his website here. And this is talking about sort of the flows that we see in the price of Bitcoin versus altcoins or alt seasons, if you will. Now, bit of context for what's on the chart. The top half of this chart is Bitcoin's price action. Fine. For the eagle-eyed of you, the second one doesn't really look like Bitcoin dominance, and it isn't. And this got me a bit confused. It's others dominance, okay? And what others is it's actually the crypto market outside of the top 10. So we're not talking about total 3 here. We're actually talking about outside of the top 10. Why is he using that one, and why do I still use that one? Well, actually, that's kind of, alt season, isn't it? Because if we're following the old model of Bitcoin to Ethereum into high cap altcoins, we really want to see what's happening with the middle cap altcoins and below. And so everything's outside of the top 10, which takes up such a vast amount of market share. I think it's probably a smart thing to do. But he's also inverted it. So I can already see you rolling your eyes here again. Bloody hell, that's a lot of things to take into account. But just while I'm talking through kind of this thing, just bear that one in mind. And what I found quite interesting is, we're still kind of on track for where we have been in the last 2 cycles. And so, with that in mind, we don't really need to worry that Bitcoin's still taking, a little bit of the limelight, because when altcoins decide to run, they will run, and Bitcoin dominance will suffer from it. And he goes on to sort of say there's a pattern that kind of plays out. If you follow that, and we're just about to print the final bit of this, it kind of suggests that we're going to be getting an alt season imminently, and a proper alt season, not a 2-week flash in the pan alt season. And so, it's identified here that Bitcoin dominance tops up just after the first top within a cycle, which happened in 2016, happened in 2019, I suppose. And then it also happened here in halfway through 2023. Okay. We kind of see how they reflect on both of the charts. Then he says the Bitcoin dominance then follows on to bottoming. Remember, it's dominance here after the second top. And this is others, so we've got to bear in mind there's a bit of a misleading thing here because it isn't BTC.D, but we can kind of see that others is down here. Okay, so we've had a second top, and then Bitcoin dominance or others dominance bottoms. Similar, second top, bottoms before rally up. Second top, bottoms. So kind of making sense. And then we've got this third one, which, things like to run in threes. We know market makers like to run in threes, so kind of working here. So we've got BTC dominance, I keep on saying that, but others dominance tops again after reaching all-time high. So just prior to the runoff for Bitcoin, and then ultimately that alt season, we had a new all-time high. We've done that again. Similar new all-time high, which was 40,000, which I talked about before we pulled back. And then we've had this here. And actually, he did send this out beginning of December, so he hadn't actually recorded it, but we were down here at hitting this sort of Bitcoin dominance top. And now, obviously, we have hit a new all-time high. Every day, we hit a new all-time high. So he's suggesting here that actually this is where we start to now see alt seasons start to run. I can't remember which chart I put it on. And sort of what I've tried to highlight here is just where the others dominance. Again, this is inverted, so I could do it the other way around if that helps people. So as this is going up, this is eating into Bitcoin's dominance. So ultimately, altcoin market is increasing in value, and we kind of start to see that actually, Bitcoin's price can still go up, but altcoins are going to continue within that period, and that's exactly what happened. And I think the best example was probably 2021. Because we had such a run up from Bitcoin first. You see, as Bitcoin started eating in from 9,000, I said, all the way up to that first point of like 40 odd thousand, it crushed altcoins. Then altcoins took over. Bitcoin still went from 40 to 69, started great, but altcoins really started to push. And we're kind of seeing that here. We've had that run up here with Bitcoin sort of getting past the all-time high just at 74,000 or what it was, and then we had the turning, and then we've had sort of altcoins going, but still Bitcoin's been able to climb. And so we're just having a bit of a pullback at the moment. How far that pullback goes, we don't know, but CryptoCon is kind of suggesting, and the cycles previously suggest with days from halving and all that kind of stuff, that it's imminent. And when I say imminent, I mean within the next 30 days, we should see some cycle of some alt season of some sustained amount coming. So if you are particularly worried about that, or you're looking at your portfolio, tapping it, going, come on, do something, you've been patient for 2 years. Just have that patience, sort of just a little bit longer, and just see ultimately where we can get from. I think I'll kind of leave the dominance side there, because I'm going to talk about actual dominance and total three and everything else when we go through the charts. So we'll kind of cover that one there. I'm just going to knock off this final question. Oh no, let's actually, let's close the poll. So thank you everyone for in the poll. Interestingly, the question was, would you rather be in BTC or alts at this particular time. And 65% of you are suggesting you'd rather be in BTC. Now, I didn't stipulate 100%, whatever. I think we'll just go with general consensus. Your portfolio would be, you prefer it to be at least BTC heavy, if not all BTC. And for me, I can't argue with that. I can't argue it for two reasons. One, just, everything that I've outlined there, with all the news that we've got, I really don't see how Bitcoin fumbles the bag in the next 4 weeks, just because of, all these news announcements and Trump and everything else. 4 weeks time after the news announcement, and maybe we don't get that day one Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Act. Maybe we do see that start that Altseason. But there's 4 weeks worth of potential for climbing the BTC there. And so that had me thinking, what should I do? Because, okay, I'm in Tau, I'm in Near, I'm in Render, and I'm in Memes. Memes, hey, they could have their day in the sun anytime. So they are the high risk thing. Let's just leave those where they are. They'll be what they'll be. Near and Render been incredible performers for me. Maybe I should be looking to take some profit and turning that into BTC, even if it's for the short term. But the one that's really caught my eye is Tau, because whilst altcoins have done well in the last few weeks, Tau hasn't. And, I'm not talking from a fundamental point of view here. I'm talking from TA, price action, whatever it is. It's not doing particularly well. And so that got me thinking, I've been shorting Tau, because I still like the asset and I didn't want to take the risk of sidestepping in case things moved away from me. So I've been shorting it, and I'll go on the shorting later because someone's asked a question about it. But I was thinking, well, had I have not shorted it, instead of sidestepping into USDT, should we be brave as traders, as educated people in this area that are trying to maximize everything we can, but whilst trying to minimize our risk, which I know is counterintuitive sometimes, should we be brave and saying, right, well, what is, the flavor of the month, if you will? Still absolutely love the altcoin that maybe I'll end up going back into, and me selling out of it is not a damning review on anything like that, but it's just me trying to maximize where it's going. And I kind of think, actually, yeah, we should be brave. Don't have to be brave with 100% of your portfolio, but maybe we should be brave. Not stupid, not reckless, but just brave to just sort of try and see where the general narrative is for this particular moment in a short time frame and look to maximize it. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just run the numbers because we can. And why did I choose Tau, and why did I choose? Don't worry about the amount. I've just done the amount as a round number, just so we can get the figures. But I shorted Tau at 629. I closed it a couple of days ago, about 5:45 or something like that. Probably should have held it longer, but it doesn't matter. But I've said, right, well, had I have made that decision to, instead of shorting Tau, just sell my Tau into BTC. So sell it at 9 o'clock in the morning and immediately buy BTC at 9 o'clock in the morning. Oops. Can't see. I need to change the sensitivity of my mouth. It's wild. So at the time, it was 101,000. So I would have got 0.62 BTC, which, as you can see, kind of works out a similar amount. Now, had I then have decided, right, today, just for this example, well, I'll tell you what, sell my BTC, or see what the value of my BTC is at this time. It's now 107, so my 6.2 is actually worth 66.5. So, it's not a huge amount, but it is a 5% increase, which is, perfect. 5% increase, 3,500. I'll take that. Nice little move, especially as it's only over the course of 5 days. But look at what it could have done if we had moved it into Tau. Moved it back into Tau today, because whilst Bitcoin's price has gone up, Tau's price has come down massively. So using that 66,637 at a price of 535, and I think it's even less than that now, can't find a price of Tau, not by much, could have actually bought back 124.5 Tau with exactly the same price at a 25% increase on where we were. And it's little lessons like this, we've been in long enough that actually maybe that's where we should go. And the reason I asked that in the poll is because I'm not going to do it right this second, because I don't think now is today, right now, where Tao's price action is, and we'll have a look at it in a second, is the right move to do. But if an opportunity presents itself again, instead of sidestepping into USDT, sidestep into the powerhouse that everybody is in love with at the moment, which the likes of Sailor and BlackRock and countries have decided that they have to buy. Sidestep into that. And you know what? Even if Bitcoin does drop back down, in terms of its BTC value, it's highly likely if Bitcoin's going to have a sharp drop, alts are going to have that sharp drop, but more on the way back. So you'd still end up being able to have more of the original asset that you sold from. And I think that's probably my biggest lesson. You know, I've kind of played safe and played stupid for the last 2 years. Bought BTC early, then went stupid and bought altcoins too early. Struggled with altcoins, sold some of them, and then they rallied almost immediately after I did. And so I've kind of just been, you know, poking around at the edges, trying to think I'm being smart. And maybe this is me thinking I'm being smart, and I'll end up wrecking myself. But I do think that there is an opportunity to had here. And if it all goes wrong, you're holding one of the most powerful assets that we've seen in the world. And that's no exaggeration or hyperbole. In terms of financial returns, I dare anyone to suggest there's any other asset that's more rewarding than BTC. And so I'm going to have a bit of a think, I'll be honest, into how we do this and to where we ultimately go. And we look at Tao's chart. So this is kind of, you know, it's a 4 hour. I think I used the 4 hour when I was trading this. So this was the thought process of the trade. It's come up, got to the 50 EMA, rejected from the 50 EMA. I decided to sell. Okay, so that's something I've talked about all the time with sort of how I look at. Didn't sell, shorted, and so I went into this short. We came down here, and then a couple of days ago, I think it was this candle here, it bounced strong off this 618, and I thought I'm just going to close it. And so I did, and then ultimately it's fallen back through. But, you know, have a look at this chart. Let me just clear some of this. I mean, does that look like, you know, just on the 4, does that look like a particularly healthy chart at the moment? What have we got above us? I mean, I've taken off the fibs, but we've seen all of those 618s above us, 0.5, 382. We've got the 10, the 20, the 50, and the 200 EMA all above us, all before we get above 580. So all of that noise has to get through. And yeah, we're probably likely to see some sort of attempt at the 50 EMA again. But my view is if we make it to that 50 EMA again, or maybe the 200 EMA on the 4 hour, and we reject from it, maybe that's the opportunity that presents itself to move temporarily into BTC, regardless of its price. Now, BTC is an interesting one because if I'm trading it, I don't really want to be keeping moving it in and out of my Trezor. I don't really like leaving it on the wallet on an exchange because, well, pretty certain that most exchanges are paper trading BTC, and it's too valuable to do that. So there's definitely some, you know, some other risks and elements that we need to decipher. But right now, in terms of risk to reward, I'm not sure it's quite there because we've already seen this fall, okay? And we're starting to coil up a little bit on the 4 hour. We do have a bit of room to the 800 EMA, so maybe we get down to 500. But my worry is that actually we've seen this level before, and we've seen sharp moves from this. So, you know, sharp move only a week ago, down from this level, straight back up to 640. Okay, then it fell away. My worry is, do we get to the top of this channel again, say 600, 590, and I've sold here? Not the greatest place to sort of find myself. So I'm kind of just playing this one a little bit soft. Not to mention for the fact, tomorrow's the FOMC. So old Gary Gensler, he's gone soon. Jerome Powell is going to get up and he's going to tell us what we're having with the funding rate. Now, we're currently sitting at 4.75, and there is a very high forecast that we're going to see a drop of rates down to 4.5. Matter of fact, it's currently sitting at 95.4% probability. And that's built, you know, a month ago it was only at 61. We're starting to see some real strong indications that there is the data to suggest we actually can have another rate cut. What does another rate cut generally mean? It generally means the markets are going to get excited, even if it's temporarily. But you take that in, okay? You give TradFi even, you know, gold, whatever, the opportunity to boom just before everyone goes on holiday. we might start to see that sharp move up, and then everyone goes away and there's no one there to counter it. This thing just climbs for a few weeks until people come back, hence another move on the Santa Rally. So I'm hesitant to make a rash decision right now, just based on where the likes of Tau currently sits, on top of the fact we've got other things. Now, some people in Discord were talking about, there is a head and shoulders, which there is, and Tau in the past has kind of sort of said, I'll take your head and shoulders and ignore it and just fly away. But this one, I mean, it depends where you want to draw the neckline. I don't really like drawing necklines sort of this way, but there probably is a neckline like that. I mean, I know it's broken down there. Or you can have a flat one from maybe here. Oops, nope. And it's kind of already broken through. Or you can have, no, I think that's probably about it. I was trying to see if you could get one that had a Kobo here. But I think we're pushing the boat because the left shoulder doesn't quite get to it. But you can kind of see there is some sort of head and shoulders which may be playing out, and that could play out all the way back down to like 450. But if it did, I don't personally see it doing it in one move. If it did do it in one move, I imagine it'd be very swiftly recovered. So I'm going to wait. As much as I've talked about the benefits of that last Bitcoin move, it's got to be the right kind of risk to reward. So I'm looking for a move up, not retesting the 10. That's too close to current price action. I wouldn't even really say it's worth it retesting the 20. We get to the 50 and we reject, then that's something that I would consider. I mean, we put it on the 1 hour. Oh, sorry. Let's just clear all these off first. And let's try and get this so we can actually see what we're looking at. I mean, the 1 hour, the 200 and the 800 kind of on top of each other here at around about 580. Maybe we get to that. Maybe that's, I think we could still have, a bit of time away from it. The 50, it's only at 540 there. So yeah, I'm just going to play that one by ear, but I'm going to watch the charts and just see currently where it sits. This kind of leads into something that David asked. He said, I noticed you closed your short. Do you post your trades anywhere? I did post that I closed my short, and David, there's so many Davids in the group. I don't know if you're new David, old David, so apologies. Let's just assume you're a new David. The short answer to that question is no. No, I don't. Why? Because what I look to do when I'm trading, I'm only just getting back into it after a 2-year hiatus as well. It's very different to what Siam sort of not only teaches, but how he performs his trades. And so he's never asked me not to, but at the same time, I don't want to sort of confuse anyone or lead anyone to any sort of level of indecision in what they do. What I would say is I've learned from myself that I don't like leaving trades open for a long period of time, because I look at the market on a smaller time frame, and so all I see is volatility. And I don't like giving, hey, trust me, I give plenty of money to the market, but I don't like doing it. No one does. And so I just feel the longer you lead a trade open, one, you've got to pay fees, but two, the more likely it is that volatility is going to end up either taking your gains or actually taking you out of it. So I sort of generally try to trade within a day, and that almost makes me out to be a day trader. I'm actually only really looking to place 1 or 2 trades. I'm not trading 5-minute chart and I'm putting 20 trades in a day. I'm just looking for a setup that will happen in a day or maximum of like 3 days. None of these sort of week-long, month-long, amazing positional plays, because one, it gives me the opportunity to play both directions, up and down that way. Two, the Asian market, which opens at sort of like 11 o'clock till 1 o'clock in the morning UK time, just always seems to trip me up. So I go to bed thinking I'm in a great position. I wake up in the morning and I've been stopped out, or I'm just somewhere where I don't want to be and I have to close it. And so because I can't pay attention on all of that, I just prefer not to. And that I do miss. So, that trade that Simon put for Tron, in which he got a 43-hour trade, I don't ever get any of those, because my sort of tolerance is not to leave that one open. That was a fantastic trade, but it's very rare that I actually get anything like that. Now, I do talk about, what I'm going to do and that kind of stuff on these calls. And I will occasionally mention if, people are asking me like, Harry, you're sidestepping. I've sort of said plenty of times, not sidestepping. I'm looking at shorts. This is what I'm looking at. But what I mean by what was the exact wording? Do I post my trades anywhere? I don't sort of say, I've got an entry position here, stop loss is there, and I'm looking for a target there. Because one, I don't like the responsibility of other people following me, and two, I just don't want to confuse people because, I appreciate you're not really here necessarily for me. But that being said, I had someone in the group reach out to me on the DMs and they were asking for my advice on a near trade. So they had been in one of those near long trades. They were new to trading and they were very surprised at how quickly the funding rate feeds add up. So they were about 4,000 in profit and I think they were paying like 600 or 700 in fees. So, it's massively eat into it, which again, unless you're paying attention to that, and, generally, if you're doing a good trade, the funding rate is going to be against you because you've probably been in it for long enough that the funding rate has switched to the side you're going towards. And so, they asked what they would recommend they do. And funnily enough, I sort of explained exactly what I've just gone and explained here. And I gave them the advice of, pay yourself. That's a motto that I've got from watching one guy on YouTube. And it's so true. Pay yourself. You've worked hard enough to get into a profitable position. Don't feel you have to leave 100% on the table. And we were talking about it. It was on the 5th. Yeah, it was around about tea time on the 5th. It might have been a little bit later. And near was at $8. And, they ended up taking profit closing it. Because I was like, you can always find a new position to enter. And look what's gone and happened. Look at that volatility. At one stage, it went from $8 all the way down to $5.80. They've been able to bank that instead. I don't know where the position would currently stand at the moment had they have left it open. But they've lived to fight another day. They've paid themselves a handsome amount. I don't know how much $4,000 is compared to their portfolio, but still an incredible position to be in. And then you can look for another setup. Doesn't even have to be on this asset. So that's just why I like to do that. I'll continue to sort of talk about things, but I'm not going to post them. I think that was a really long way of me explaining that, David, but that's currently where I am. A couple of things people have put. Is a solid justification for why Kaz and Tal are underperforming? I'll get onto that in a moment. Yeah, Tal's painful. Yeah, it is. Thanks, Jamie. Nice short. Trust me, I've had some shockers. So even getting back into it, I broke a couple of the rules sometimes. So I was doing it with Dot. I decided to leave it open. I went to sleep and had to sort of close it. And I think I did one with... I even did Tower the wrong way as well. So, it's a skill is trading, and it's something that if you've not done for a while, it takes a lot to get back into it. And I don't mean that as in, you may be able to read the charts, but the skill is managing your own emotions. And so, it sounds all cliche and boring and sorry if you're never going to make 1,000x in your first month, but really, unless you've actually traded with your own money before and you understand whether or not you're the type of person that gets kept up at night worrying about it, just tread lightly. It doesn't matter what the price is when you're perp trading. You just have to get in at whatever price because you see something's happening. So you're not holding the underlying asset. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but just make sure you're comfortable. Cheers, Dits. Your thought process behind trade is really valuable. Well, regardless of whether people agree or want to copy it. I give my views on things. I look at things in a different way. And whether or not people want to act on it, I won't give you my address so you can send me a bag of feces in the post or anything like that. Okay, let's have a look at the market, the rest of it. So we kind of covered BTC. Why am I on the weekly here? Oh no, sorry. The one I did want to say, Tau BTC. Going back to my discussing it, look at that chart. Does that look like it's recovering anytime soon? I mean, that's on the 1 hour. Let's put it on the daily. Probably 1 hour still do. Actually, on the daily, you could argue that we're potentially at a double bottom space. I'll take that one back. What was I looking at before? It looked horrendous. 4 hour, that was it. This is just... If this was inverted, it looked fantastic. We'll be talking about how this is brilliant. It's laddering up. The 10 EMA, it drops every so often, the 20 catches it, and in a really dark time, it hits the 50, but it bounces back. we'd be singing its praises. But unfortunately, that's inverted. So this just doesn't look like a particularly good chart at the moment, which is why the Tau BTC play in my head is kind of just working it. And let me just give you, warts and all. I sold my BTC into Tau like here. Okay. So I know what it's like to be stupid. Yeah. I could have held on to my BTC. I'm potentially going back into BTC at half the value of which I sold it in at. So yeah, it doesn't always work that way. And I am certainly not great at this. I just do it as many times as I can till I get it right. And yeah, so sorry, let's go back to others. So on the weekly, Bitcoin's still looking pretty decent. I mean, unfortunately, we can say, it hasn't hit the 10 in a while. So what's the 10 at? So we know it does on bull runs, bull markets. We like to come back to the 10. The 10's at 90. Sometimes it corrects to the 20. That's at 80. Worst case scenario, it hits the 50. We don't lose 50s in bull markets on the weekly. So that's currently at 68. It's going to climb quite high soon, okay? But that's kind of where it is. Let's go on to some other ones, and then let's just let's get into lower time frame. So, Reese, I will come back to your question about CAS, because CAS is just wild. CAS has massively underperformed at the moment, which is a really strange place to see it. I think we kind of covered Tau, or certainly my thoughts on it. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that I really want to say on it. I don't think there is. Even if you're looking at vector recoveries, there's a little bit here which is just nestling in nicely with the 50 EMA. We have seen some strong falling, but we may see it recover. We need to see those sustained recoveries. What I will say, now, you know what? Now I've seen on the 4 hour, I think there is. I think, there's definitely a compression. There is, I mean, you could take it all the way, even if you just do it there. That normally leads to recovery. But it's got to get through so much. We would want to see it get to 650. That's 4 EMAs and effectively 4 fib levels to get through and to actually, but the facts don't lie. There is definitely a compression there, and these are getting smaller. And you could even, if we went on to the 1 hour, which I don't want to, you could argue that there's even that. It's getting even tighter. These are getting really tight. And so that's got to be in the column for, this might not be the right time to do that move. But again, the right time for me is seeing a move up first and then how it reacts. So, no worries, well, thank you for coming along. Let's do CAS first. So, what's happened to CAS? This was arguably, beginning of the year, the most talked about altcoin, top 100 altcoin. You couldn't go anywhere on crypto Twitter or YouTube without seeing videos and analysis on CAS, and it just isn't there at the moment. That army, whatever you want to call it, just seems to have dried up, or at least their message isn't being filtered into my algorithm. And trust me, my algorithm is pretty crypto heavy, so I'd be surprised. But you just go back to this Altseason. If you ever go to this website, you scroll down. This is the top 50 tokens over the last 90 days. We've got HBAR at over 500%. Okay, we got XLM, XRP, Doge, all of them above 300%. Bitcoin, okay, at 70 odd, 87%. Tau in its difficulty in the last 90 days, in the last 3 months, is still up 74%. Look at CAS. There's only one token in the top 50 over the last 3 months that has failed to make an improvement on its price. And it's CAS, and it's not even a small one. It's down 11%. I just don't understand where it's at. I don't follow it enough to know if there's fundamental issues, or, if it's just a case of this was I don't want to say flash in the pan, but just something that wasn't really doing anything. I've done videos and I've done talks on what I think CAS is like in terms of a product or a project. I'm not the world's biggest fan of it, but I was the biggest fan of the fact that people were talking about it so much it was moving up in price. That isn't the case anymore. And, it says a lot to me, unfortunately, because, I'm going to be I don't know what is wrong with my mouse today. I cannot draw even a curve. There we go. There's some, I appreciate it's not a straight line. I was going to draw a rectangle through it, but ultimately there's some area here which is a ceiling, okay? And okay, logarithmic kind of curve towards it, and it's starting to curve down, fair enough. But the reality is, once we get to these levels, you know, above 17.5, you know, we find the top, and then we start to see red vector candles, and the price pushes down. And we're at a level where if it can't hold this level here, we've got to realistically be talking about 10 cents. So there's plenty of price action. Let's get a rectangle now. You know, in this zone, okay? There's plenty of price action. We could probably lift this up a little bit, sort of here, which is shown in the past. It's acted as good support and resistance, but you know, move up, support, bounce back down, okay, but generally the next candle, support, come back through, support. So we're in this zone now, but if we lose it, I'd suggest those vector candles down at 12.5 cents are getting recovered, and we'll probably see some sort of flash all the way down to 10 cents, because that's just the base that it's found. You know, whether that's fair value or what, this is an area that it is found works within. Now, we take, I don't know, oops, I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll see. I mean, you take that there. Appreciate there's a bit of noise here. Let's just, don't think we need this for now. Let's, just trying to take some of this off for now. So this fib has taken us all the way back from over 12 months ago. Okay, so this is at middle of October, you know, when we were back at 4 cents, move up all the way up to its all-time high at 20 cents. So a hell of a move. But you're right. I think it's Erjan who said CAS had just gone sideways for last year. It has. You know, we've just been in this massive range. But look, we're on this 236 at the moment level right now. So that sort of level, before I even drew the fib, that level, that rectangular box where I said there's plenty of price action in and around there, it's because it's smack bang on a fib. And that's exactly what I'm seeing here. You know, this is the decision it needs to make. Now, okay, maybe my 10 cents was wrong. Maybe we got the 382, but although we have seen some price action on that, for a few days it has fallen below. So somewhere between that 11 and 9 cents, I think is where it's got to find its bottom. EMAs, we're below them all, except for the 800. And the 800's only just started to print. It's old enough now to finally get some. But yeah, we lost the 200 today. So this fib has got to hold us. And if it doesn't, I'm afraid I think we're going down. And it's an odd one. Like I say, I don't understand from a fundamental point of view what's driving that. But we are where we are with that one. Link's an interesting one because Link has no chill. Link has just decided to wake up. And of course, those of you who have watched these long enough, you know that Link, she's a love you and leave you type of one, because I sold all my Link here. And I think it was like here as well. I was playing this rectangle, sold it at $8, and now we're at 30. Okay, so this is a bitter one for me to talk about, but we can't live in regret for too long. And what do we see? We saw a hell of a move up, and we've overextended over the last couple of days. I mean, we got to $31. So I can see this one coming back down. To be honest with you, I can even see it getting down to maybe 25, hitting this 20 EMA, and I don't think 20 is off the cards. But we're starting to see non-legacy altcoins actually start to make a move. Okay, so there's sort of some of the levels that maybe we want to have a look at. But you got to remember with Link, I haven't talked about it for a while. It's an oracle, okay? So we're taking, real-time data. It is being used quite a lot. It's got some great partnerships. And so we're starting to see, although this is, it's not the newest of projects out there, but it's certainly not as old as the likes of XRP. But we're starting to see ones with actual real value actually starting to deliver. So again, a good one to see there. Render, I think Render was due a pullback. We've had that sharp move up. We're now already back to the 10 and the 20. I think it almost seems logical that we get down to 8 cents. 8 cents? $8. Jesus. We get to 8 cents and I'm in trouble. And we see some sort of recovery there. Maybe 750 then if it gets to the 382, the bottom of this 50 EMA cloud. But yeah, 50% recovery is what we kind of always talk about. And, if Altseason is ending and we do get that flash crash with BTC, some of these other levels we need to look at. But I'm just looking for areas in which it can turn around. I feel like I'm just a politician here. Oh, well, we'll go with 857, 750, and maybe down as low as 650. Just sort of, litter them all. Hopefully one of them will come true. Ethereum, let's just, because Ethereum has woken up. And people might say, well, it can't break 4,000. But, the Trump election with 2,400. So, we're up almost 100%. I guess that's probably an exaggeration. 75%. And what have we done here? With a sharp move up. You can see it, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. Came back to the 10 EMA. When we lost the 10 EMA, 20 went in quarters. Sharp move back up again. We got too far away from the 10 EMA a couple of times. Bang, 20 EMA, it's quarters. We've moved back up again. The only thing I would say here is a potential double top. Can't find it. There we go, There. Oh, my mouse. What is wrong with you today? Potential double top. We have seen some strong wicks there. The 4 hour, let's have a look. This is it, isn't it, on the 4 hour? That hump there. And the hump there, that would be the neckline, which is a vector zone. What? That's the straightest line I've drawn all night, which is, the recovery of a vector zone, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not the 200 can hold that. But that's definitely something to look at. But I think right now with the daily, at least that is showing us some signs there that it's woken up. Now, that is not reflected in the ETFs, I can assure you. Still nobody cares. A couple of days ago, BlackRock tried to care, but after that, no one cares again. So, yeah, needs a bit more work, unfortunately, with that. Let's have a quick look at Total 3, and maybe we'll call that a day after that. I mean, so this is what I'm talking about. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Total 2. So, back when the Altseason kicked off, we were at 900 billion. Okay, Trump election, 600. Sorry, it was 700 trillion at one stage. 600 trillion putting back into the market. And although the Altseason may be over, certainly cooling off, we've not really given that away. And I think that's one of the things we need to bear in mind. The legacy tokens like XRP, they've held it. Sui's held it. Link held what the gains that they've had. DOT still twice as much as what it was when Trump was elected. So, there's still quite a lot of money that is still flashing around within there. And Ethereum is obviously going to take a large share of that, given its percentage amount and the fact that it has done a 75% increase. But again, Total 2 shot up, 20 EMA's gone and caught it. Now we're just resting nicely above this. So, there's plenty of opportunity for this to happen. And I'm still in the mind of, I think Bitcoin will go. And until the 4-year cycle breaks, and this could be the cycle that breaks it, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to watch, I'm going to monitor, and I'm going to try and understand. But I'm going to try and stick with that one there. Anything else? Not really. Tau still, bottom of that chart at the moment. It's definitely what I'm keeping my eye on. I know a lot of you are into it. And again, that Tau levered long position, I don't know what the entry point was for it, but we lose this level, we could be getting into the mid 400s. I'm sure you'll all still be in profit because I think it was much lower than that. But it's just something to consider where that is in terms of weighing things up. Portfolio, business BTC. So bought some, I think I said at 94 again with the beginning of the month, and I'll buy some, whatever it is, when the banks open in January, and buy some more. In terms of the personal side, so Tau started to drop, so it was 51 last week. I bought some more, but it's falling. NEAR is climbing, Render's climbing, memes are kind of staying where they were, and the USDT, I don't think that's taken into account the trade that I closed a couple of days ago, but so there may be some sort of rebalancing there, but that's just kind of the amount that I'm kind of trading with at the moment. I don't think I missed any questions. I haven't. But I have been rabbiting on for an hour and 15 minutes, which is probably a bit too long. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to add. I don't think there really is. What I'll do is, I'm going to say, bit of soul searching, try and decide whether or not it's there. If I think there's a level in which I'm going to be enticed to do it, whether it be 10%, 50% or 100% of my pot, I'll at least write in Discord that I'm going to do it. And we'll live by the sword and die by the sword as to how that outcome turns around. If it's something that you're interested in doing yourself, you just got to, can't have a knee-jerk reaction just because Tau goes up one day. You've got to see some sustained things. So just build that into whatever mental model you're trying to create as to how that would trigger you swapping it back to the original asset, even if it's not with Tau. Obviously, we've got Trading Pub on Thursday. And as I said at the beginning of this, I'll go live on Monday next week. So that'll be the 23rd, so usual time. We'll see what we end up talking about. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, listening, asking your questions, replying to the poll, all that kind of stuff. If you've got anything you want to ask me or any advice you want to talk about, feel free to tag me, DM me, all of those usual kind of stuff. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.